press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello everyone. In the last class we had discussed about the life process, like different life processes: nutrition, respiration, transportation, excretion. So some basic concepts regarding the life process we had discussed briefly, and particularly we had discussed about nutrition. So autotrophic nutrition, heterotrophic nutrition, and in the autotrophic nutrition we had discussed that how autotrophs like plants, how they synthesize their food by using inorganic sources, and by the utilization of food how they produce the energy, right? And today let us discuss about heterotrophic nutrition. So heterotrophic, as the name says, the type of nutrition is present in the heterotrophs. That means these heterotroph organisms, they do not synthesize or else they do not produce food by themselves. They depend on other organisms for the source of food. For example, there are different type of food sources, okay, like grasses and some animals which feed on other animals, right? So these are all different type of food sources, and the nutrition process, this heterotrophic nutrition process is it will differ on the availability of type and the different food sources, and also how the organism obtain its food. I repeat, the heterotrophic nutrition differs based on the availability of the food, okay, availability of type and the different source of food, and how these organisms obtain their food. For example, if I take two types of food sources, one is immobile, okay. So immobile food source or else stable, stationary food source. For example, grass. Okay, I'll take grass for this immobile food source. And mobile food source, like the food will move. Like this mobile food sources, like animals which feed on this grass. Okay, let us take herbivorous. For example, deer. So these two are different food sources, different type of food sources, and this grass can be eaten by any herbivorous animals like cow. So cow usually will eat the grass, and deer. So deer is eaten by carnivorous animals, because carnivores, they feed on the flesh of other animals, right? Carnivorous like lion. Okay, so based on the different type of food, the nutrition, heterotrophic nutrition will differ on different type of animals. That is, here cow, okay, cow will eat the grass, like the grass will be in its place only, it will not move. The cow has to move to the grass, and it must eat the grass, it must grab the grass. For that, to eat the grass, cow will have different teeth modifications, okay. So to chew the grass and to swallow the grass, the mouth will be adapted for this source of food. And also this grass, which is cellulose, it must be digested, right? So for that sake, the alimentary canal of the cow will also be modified, will also be adapted to eat the grass. And coming to the lion, so here lion, it must run behind the deer, okay, it must chase, it must hunt the deer, and then it will get the food source after that, right? After hunting, it will get the food source. Here, for that sake, the lion must have well locomotory organs, like it must run fast, right? And also the deer, that is, it will have flesh, and the lion has to tear the deer and it must eat the flesh. For that, lion will also have teeth modifications based on the source of food, and also the alimentary canal will also be adapted based on the source of food. Okay, so here these animals, different type of organisms, they will have different strategies based on the availability of the food as well as how they take in the food and how they utilize this food. Okay, they will have different strategies. Here strategies means, as I said, the cow will have modifications, as well as cow has to move. It must recognize which type of grass it will need to eat, right? And also the lion, it must run or else hunt for the food. So these all are strategies the organisms they will make to get the source of food, and it is also a part of nutrition. Okay, now as I said, the animals will make different type of strategies. Let us take some more examples. Let it be like this. Here one is cow and another one is lion. These two have different type of food source and different strategies. And some other organisms like saprophytes. Saprophytes like mushroom, okay, and mold. These saprophytes or else some organisms, they will feed on the already broken down material, that is the simpler molecules. Some organisms, what they do, they will break down the complex molecule outside their body, and when the complex molecule is broken down and it is converted into simpler molecule, these molecules are taken up as a source of food in some animals, and that animals are in the group of saprophytes. Okay, here saprophytes, they will feed on dead and decayed organic matter. So mushroom and mold are the example for this. Here what happens when an organism, living organism like plant, animal, so it is dead and it will start to decompose. Okay, and whatever the source is present, whatever the minerals or else nutrition are present in that dead and decayed matter, it will start to decompose, and these saprophytes, they will release some enzymatic reactions will take place, and the food will be broken down outside, and this food is taken as a source of food in saprophytes. Okay, and some other examples like parasites. Here parasites, these are organisms which depend on other organism, other living organism for the source of food and shelter. Here some parasites like Cuscuta. So Cuscuta is a plant parasite. Okay, so Cuscuta, it will be a thin thread like structure. Okay, not thread, it will be little thicker than the thread. So Cuscuta, it will roll or else it will start twinning to the plant. Okay, it will twin the plant, and this Cuscuta will not have this chlorophyll. Okay, chloroplast will not be present in Cuscuta, so it will not produce food by itself. It will depend on other plants. So it is a parasite. Here what happens, Cuscuta has a special hook-like structures, okay, sting-like structure like Hosteria. It is called as Hosteria, and this Hosteria, it will penetrate into the vessel like xylem and phloem vessels. Okay, and this penetration will lead to the absorption. It will penetrate and it will absorb the nutrients which is present in the plant, and these nutrients are utilized by the Cuscuta for its growth and development. Okay, so it is basically a plant parasite. And some other parasites like animal parasites, ticks, lice, leeches. So these tick, lice and leeches, they will feed on the blood of animals. Okay, so they will attach to the surface of the animal and they will feed, or else they will suck the blood of an animal. And lice you will find in the hair of the animals. Okay, I think you all know about that. So you will find them on the hairs, and leeches will have a hook like structure, and by the help of that hook like structure it will attach to the body surface and it will suck the blood as much as possible. Okay, so these are ectoparasites because they will be present outside the body, they will be present on the surface of the body. And there are some other parasites like tapeworm. Here tapeworm is an endoparasite. That means this parasite, the tapeworm, it will be inside the body. It will be in the small intestine of animal and in some cases in human beings. So this tapeworm which is present in the intestine, it will absorb the nutrients and the minerals which when the animal eat, so the digestion will take place in the stomach as well as in the intestine. The already digested nutrients and minerals which are present, that is simple molecules, it is eaten by the, it will taken by the tapeworm. This tapeworm will consume and it will develop here. So these all are different type of organisms which have different strategies, okay, for how they take in the food and how they utilize them. Some will take the food, so these they will take the food, they will eat and digestion process will take place, and that means the complex molecules are broken down into simpler molecules, further absorption will take place and they will use the nutrients for the utilization of energy, for the production of energy. And some other organisms like saprophytes, they will break down the food outside their body, and after the breakdown the simple molecules which are present, they will consume them, okay, and they will utilize those nutrients for the source of energy. And the parasites, air parasites, they will depend on other animals for the nutrition. So these parasites directly absorb the nutrition from the other animals and they will utilize them for the production of energy. So these all are strategies, okay. So these all are different type of strategies. Then how do organisms obtain their food? So they will make some strategies, right? Now let us discuss how organisms obtain their food. How organisms obtain their food. How do they obtain? Like again, if we take an example of lion, so lion, it will hunt, okay, for the source of food, lion. And one more example like elephant. So elephant, it will have a long trunk, okay. Elephant will have a long trunk and it will grab the food, it will pluck the leaf or whatever the plants, sugarcane and the fruits, and it will put it in its mouth and further digestion will take place. And some other organisms like human beings, so we have hand, so we will use our hand to eat, we will eat the food and we will put it in our mouth and digestion will take place, right? And some other organisms like birds, so birds, they have a beak, they will pluck the grains from the beak. So like this, the more complex organisms, the multicellular, more complex organisms have specialized parts to perform different functions, right? So we have different parts. So these parts will perform different functions. But what about the unicellular organisms? Unicellular organisms must also need food, right? Then how they obtain their food? We obtain our food by eating, we will use our hand and we will eat. Elephant use trunk, and lion it will hunt. Okay, like this we have different parts, body parts. Then what about the unicellular organisms? So the unicellular organism, like example amoeba. So amoeba is very famous, I think you all know about it, right? Okay, so in the amoeba, when the food is present, okay, when the food is present nearby it will start to produce a finger-like projections. Okay, it will start to produce a finger-like projections. Here, these finger-like projections are called as false food or pseudopodia. Here, it is the extension. Okay, it is the extension of its membrane, and this pseudopodia will encircle the food surface. It will grab the food. Okay, it will grab the food and it will totally engulf it. Okay, and when the food enters into the cell, it will create a food vacuole. It will create a food vacuole, and inside the food vacuole, food will be present, and this amoeba will release some digestive enzymes. The food get digested here, and also food get absorbed to the cytoplasm. The remaining undigested food which is present, so this undigested food and the remaining unabsorbed food, it will thrown out, or else it is ejected from the cell by the help of, when the food is remained or else undigested food is present, it will eject the food from by the help of contractile vacuole. Okay, and this vacuole, they will help in the ejection of this food material, and after that the absorbed food which is present, this food is utilized for the production of energy in case of amoeba. So like this, the unicellular organism like amoeba, so it will obtain the food. There are some other unicellular organism like paramecium. This paramecium, it is also called as slipper animalcule. Okay, so here it is also called slipper animalcule because it will have a slipper like shape. The body is slipper like shape, and this paramecium have a oral groove over here. Okay, oral groove, and the cilia will be present all over the body surface along the oral groove. So paramecium, it will be present in the water. So during the water current, like water, when water flows, the food will also flow. By the help of water current, the food will reach the oral groove. And here in the oral groove, when the food reaches here, the cilia will push the food into the oral groove, and in the oral groove, the digestion will take place and also absorption will take place. Okay, and after that, the food which is unremained, undigested, it will go out from the oral groove. So here the paramecium has a specific spot. Okay, specific spot for the digestion and also for the absorption. But in case of amoeba, okay, in case of amoeba, there is no specific spot. Like food can be entered in any part of the amoeba. But in paramecium, it will have a specific spot, that is oral loop. Like how we eat through our mouth. That is when we put food in our mouth, so we will chew and then digestion will take place. That means we have a specific spot. The food must enter into the body through our mouth. We can't eat from our ear, we can't eat from our nose, right? So like that, the paramecium or else some organisms will have specific spot for the digestion and absorption of food. So this is how the unicellular organisms obtain their food. Okay. Now let us discuss about the nutrition process which takes place in human being. How nutrition takes place in the human being. As human beings are also heterotrophic, right? We will also depend on other living organisms. We will eat plants as well as we will eat the flesh of animals. So we are heterotrophic. And before coming to the nutrition process in human beings, let me tell you that nutrition process is basically because of the digestion. Nutrition is obtained by the digestion process. So how nutrition is obtained by the digestion process? Here what happens? Nutrition or else the nutrients which are present, they are building blocks of the energy which are produced by the digestion process. Okay, so these are building blocks of energy which are produced by the digestion process. So here digestion means the breakdown of food materials, okay, the breakdown of complex food materials into simple molecule. These simple molecules are nothing but nutrition. Okay, and these nutrients which are present, they are utilized by the cell for the production of energy. So this is about the difference between nutrition and digestion. Here digestion will result in the formation of nutrition. Okay, now coming to the alimentary canal. Okay, in human beings we have well developed digestive system, and this digestive system is nothing but a alimentary canal. Yes, in the alimentary canal, if you see, there is a single pathway. Okay, there is a single pathway, like starting anteriorly, starting from the mouth, and then the food will forward, it will travel and it will reach the anus. So the digestion will take place in the different parts of the alimentary canal, and it will reach the posterior region called anus. Here alimentary canal is a single pathway. Food cannot go to other regions, right? It must follow the same pathway. But in this alimentary canal there are different parts. This alimentary canal is adapted or else it is modified into different parts. So these different parts perform different functions. Okay, and also along with the alimentary canal there are some organs associated with them for the process. It will help the process of digestion. So let us study one by one the parts of the alimentary canal. So here mouth will lead to the buccal cavity, and inside the buccal cavity we have two parts, that is teeth and tongue. Right? We have teeth and tongue. These two perform mechanical digestion. So in the digestion there are two types. One is mechanical digestion and another one is chemical digestion. So in the mechanical digestion, the teeth and tongue, so it will help in the breakdown of the complex food into the small particles. That means when we chew, the food will become into small particles and it will help for the further digestion. Here what happens, by the help of teeth we will chew, we will cut our food into small pieces, and tongue, so when we are chewing, the tongue will help the food to move all around our mouth, so we can chew easily, right? And along with the mechanical digestion, the chemical digestion will also take place in the mouth, that is by the saliva. I think while eating, we receive a watery content from our mouth, right? Some watery substance. This watery substance will soften the food. This watery substance is the saliva. So this saliva will mix with the will mix with the food, and it will produce a food into a bolus. Okay, and this bolus is created when saliva released. It will have mucus in it. This mucus will mix, or else the saliva will mix with the food. The mucus which is present in the saliva, it will lubricate the food. That means it will moisten the food, it will soften the food. So this lubrication will lead to the soften of the food, and the bolus which is present, the food will be combined by the help of this mucus, okay, and it will form the bolus, okay, and this bolus will reach the, so here when we eat, the food will convert into the bolus and it will reach the pharynx, okay. Here pharynx is a junction. So pharynx is a junction where it leads to the trachea and also the esophagus. So trachea is a wind pipe, whereas esophagus is a food pipe. So here we'll discuss about the trachea in the next session, but now let us take the esophagus pathway, okay. So the pharynx, it will leads to the esophagus, and the bolus which is present, it will reach the esophagus. So esophagus, and in the esophagus the food must move forward, right? The food must move forward. Like if the food is present here, it must move forward and it must reach the stomach. So for this movement, the esophagus have two type of muscles. One is circular and rectangle, okay. So these circular and rectangle muscles, so they will contract and they will relax and they will form a wave-like structure. Like if it is a esophagus, okay, and when the food enters here, I'll show here. So there is a wave-like motion, okay, wave-like motion which takes place in the esophagus. Here some circular muscles, they will contract and they will push the food, okay, the food will reach here, again they will contract, the food will reach here, okay, and the rectangle muscles which are present, they will contract as well as they will relax, okay. So this contraction and relaxation of the food will reach, or else will lead to the food to forward and reach the stomach. This type of movement is called as peristalsis. Note this, okay. So this type of movement is called as peristalsis. In the peristalsis movement, the circular as well as rectangular muscles, they will contract and relax and the food is moved forward. Next, when the food reaches the stomach, there is a esophageal sphincter. Okay, there is a esophageal sphincter in at the end or the posterior region of the esophagus, and this esophageal sphincter which is present, so it will open and it will close. When the food enters, it will open and it will close. This sphincter is it acts like a gate. Okay, and this sphincter will opens and the food will enter into the stomach. So in the stomach, the food will be stored for about some time, like 4 to 5 hours. Okay, and that's why when we eat, so our stomach will expand. So the food will be stored in the stomach and our stomach will be expand, and this stomach will also have some special linings. Okay, special linings of cells or else specialized cells, or we can also call it as gastric glands. Okay, and in the stomach there are some gastric glands. These gastric glands, they will release gastric juice. What is this gastric juice? So it is HCl concentrated, or else the lower pH of the HCl, like around 1.8 pH. Okay, and also some proteolytic enzymes and some digestive enzymes. So gastric juice contain HCl as well as these enzymes, proteolytic enzymes, and this will mix with a bolus, or else this will mix with a food bolus, and it will produce a chyme. Okay, it will produce a chyme. That means the bolus which reaches the stomach, and in the stomach this HCl as well as the proteolytic enzymes which are present, they will mix with the food and it will form the chyme. Okay, and this chyme will reach the intestine. So intestine will start from here, that is small intestine. It will reach the small intestine, and in the small intestine the chyme which is present, it will again start to digest. Okay, and the coming to the small intestine. The small intestine varies along the different type of animals. Like in different animals, the length of the small intestine will vary, and it is a long tube like structure, right, small intestine. And in the herbivorous animal, the small intestine is somewhat lengthy, because the cellulose in herbivorous, they will consume the plants will have cellulose, right? So the cellulose digestion will take place for some more times. So for that sake, the small intestine will be little longer, and in carnivorous the small intestine will be smaller, because the carnivorous animals, they will eat on the flesh, and flesh can digest somewhat easily compared to the cellulose. So for that sake, small intestine will be little shorter compared to the herbivorous animals. So in this small intestine, the chyme which is present, it will digest in the small intestine, like the other organs, liver, pancreas, and also the gallbladder which is present, they will secrete their juices. Okay, they will secrete their secretions, and here chyme will mix with all these secretions. There will be some muscularis movement will take place in the intestine, small intestine. So these all juices will mix with a chyme, and the remaining digestion which is present, the complete digestion will take place in the small intestine. And small intestine is also responsible for the absorption process. Okay, and the food, when it reaches to the small intestine, after that the food enters the large intestine. In the large intestine, the food which is present, the remaining food which is unabsorbed, it will have some water and also nutrients left because they are not well absorbed. And in that case, the large intestine, so it will absorb the water, remaining water, as well as some essential nutrients. Okay. After that, this large intestine will send the food to the rectum and the anus. From the anus, the food will move out. Okay. So this is a brief. Okay. This is a brief explanation regarding alimentary canal. So now let us discuss about how actually the digestion process takes place. So till now we had discussed about the different parts of alimentary canal, how alimentary canal has different functions, okay, different parts have different functions, right? So now coming to the digestion. So in the digestion, so before the digestion, let us start with the food, what we eat, right? So whatever the food we eat, it will contain carbohydrates, proteins and lipids. These are the main constituents of the food. The food is composed of this constituent mainly, okay? And these carbohydrates, proteins and lipids, they will break into the simple molecule, and these simple molecules are absorbed from the intestine and they will reach to each and every cell. So these carbohydrates, proteins and lipid, they will digest in different parts of alimentary canal. Like if we start from the mouth, as I said before, the mechanical digestion will take place in the mouth. When the food enters in the mouth, we will chew and food will be formed into a smaller parts. So here in the mouth, there is an enzyme called salivary amylase, okay, in the mouth. These salivary amylase, it will break down the carbohydrate into the simple disaccharides, okay, carbohydrates which is polysaccharide, for example starch. If you take starch, it is a polysaccharide, it will be broke down into disaccharide, okay. So here initially the carbohydrate process will carbohydrate digestion will take place in the mouth. So for that sake, chewing of the food for at least for some time is necessary, okay. It will help in the digestion and further you will not have any digestion problem, okay. And this salivary amylase, it will break down the carbohydrate like starch. So amylase into disaccharide. For example, maltose. Okay, salivary amylase, it will break down the starch which is polysaccharide, okay, into the maltose which is disaccharide. Here initially in the bolus, okay, when the bolus is formed, some amount of carbohydrate will be digested here. Next, when the bolus follow the esophagus, so it will reach the stomach. In the esophagus, it is only a canal, or else it is a pipe-like structure which transfers the bolus or else food from the mouth to the stomach. Here no digestion will take place. Here in the stomach, there are some, as I said, there are some gastric glands, okay. These gastric glands, stomach, there are gastric glands, they will produce HCl, okay, hydrochloric acid with pH of about 1.8 to 2, okay, approximately, and also some proteolytic enzymes, okay, like pepsinogen. This pepsinogen, which is inactive in the form, because before the digestion process takes place, before we eat, stomach will be empty, so the pepsinogen which is present, so it will be in the inactive form. When the HCl is released from the gastric glands, okay, that is HCl are released from the parietal cells which are present in the gastric glands, and this, when the HCl is released, this pepsinogen will react with the HCl and it will be activated, okay, and it will form into pepsin. Pepsin is a activated form of pepsinogen, and this pepsinogen, it will break down the proteins, okay, it will break down the proteins into dipeptides, okay. The proteins, it will be broke down into dipeptides by the, or else in the action of pepsin, in the action of this enzyme pepsin. So here in the stomach, HCl as well as pepsinogen is released, and when the pepsinogen will contact, or else when it reacts with the HCl, it will become activated and it will, that is called pepsin, and this pepsin, it will be helpful in the breakdown of proteins into dipeptides, okay. And as I said, this HCl which is present, it will have pH of around 1.8 to 2 approximately, right? So it is basically a concentrated acid. How human beings can keep this concentrated acid in our stomach? So don't you think this is harmful? So stomach has some production from this HCl. So stomach has a special lining, okay. It will have mucus lining, a thick mucus lining all over the stomach, as well as some bicarbonates, okay. These bicarbonates along with the mucus, this will protect the HCl from harming our stomach, okay. Now here mouth and stomach, digestion of some carbohydrates and proteins took place. Now here what happens, the bolus will be turned into chyme here, okay. The chyme is formed. This chyme, here HCl as well as some enzymes, what I said, like pepsinogen, so it will mix with the food and it will form the chyme. So in the chyme, okay, so the chyme which is after the stomach, when the food enters the stomach, inside the stomach, the food, it will mix with the HCl as well as the gastric juices like as well as the proteolytic enzyme, and it will form the chyme. So in the chyme, this chyme will now enter the small intestine, okay. And in the small intestine, as I said before, the liver as well as pancreas, they will, gallbladder, they will release their secretions, like from the liver, that is from the bile duct, the bile juice, will release, and pancreatic juice, it will release the pancreatic juice and as well as the intestinal juice. So here what happens, let us take this bile, okay. So when the food enters the intestine. In the intestine, what happens? From the stomach, the food will be mixed with the HCl, so the chyme will be acidic. So the chyme will be acidic, and this chyme cannot facilitate the further digestion process when it is acidic. So for that sake, the bile, it will alkaline the chyme. Okay, one function of the bile juice is it will alkaline the chyme, as well as it will emulsify the lipids. Okay, when the lipid is present, the complex lipid which is present, so bile, by the action of bile, emulsification will take place, and it will leads to the formation of small droplets, and these small droplets are necessary. Okay, this conversion of small droplets is necessary because the complex lipid cannot digest easily. So if there are small droplets, it can digest easily. I think you all know about emulsification. So emulsification is a process, like if you take an example of water and oil in a bottle, and if you shake that, the oil will convert into a small droplets. Okay, so here emulsification process will they will break down the larger droplets into the smaller droplets, lipid droplets. Okay, so bile juice, so it will help in the emulsification process. Next, the pancreatic juice. So one is lipid and another one is pancreatic juice. In the pancreatic juice, there are three types of enzymes present called trypsin, chymotrypsin and carboxypeptidase. Okay, and these enzymes, trypsin, chymotrypsin and carboxypeptidases, these are protein digestive enzymes. So here protein is broken down into dipeptides and peptides. Okay, as well as this pancreatic juice also has pancreatic amylase. Okay, so the carbohydrates they will break down into saccharides like disaccharides or monosaccharides. So here pancreatic juice has these enzymes trypsin, chymotrypsin and carboxypeptidases. They will break down the proteins into dipeptides and peptides, and it will also have pancreatic amylase. So it is responsible for the breakdown of carbohydrates into mono and disaccharides. Okay, only the disaccharides. So and also I said the intestinal juice which is present. Now bile duct and pancreatic juice is over. Now coming to the intestinal juice. In the intestinal juice there are other different type of enzymes. So intestine, it will have some enterocytes, and these enterocytes they will release enzymes such as dipeptides, so here as I said, when dipeptides and peptides are broke down from the protein, dipeptidases, okay, is an enzyme. So here dipeptides will be broken down in the action of dipeptidases into amino acids. Okay, one enzyme. Next one is a maltase. Okay, so when the maltose is present, I said maltose in the mouth, that is the salivary amylase which is present, it will break down the starch, the carbohydrate into maltose, right? So the maltase which is present by the action, maltose which is present by the action of maltase, it will break down into glucose. Okay, and lactase. So the lactose is also a carbohydrate. When lactase, by the action of lactase, it will break down into glucose and galactose. Okay, and sucrase. This sucrase enzyme, so it will break down the sucrose into glucose plus fructose. So what is all this? The amino acids, the glucose and galactose, glucose and fructose, these all are simple molecules. The amino acids are the units of the proteins, right? The amino acids, when the two amino acids joins, peptide will form. When two peptides will form, dipeptide will form. When two peptides will join, dipeptide will form, and this dipeptide, when it starts to join, the protein chain will be formed. So here amino acid is a unit. Okay, it is a simple molecule. And coming to the glucose, I said that glucose is a simple molecule. It is also the basic or else the unit of carbohydrate. And galactose, fructose, these all are monosaccharides. Okay, these all are units of the carbohydrate. And also there is one more enzyme, lipases. Okay, so the lipid which is present, it will break down into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, fatty acids as well as glycerol. So these fatty acids and glycerol are also the unit of lipids. So here these all are simple molecules. Okay, these simple molecules are further absorbed by the small intestine. So in the small intestine, as I said, the absorption will takes place, right? So for that sake, in the absorption, if you take the section of small intestine, okay, let us concentrate here. You can see different types of cells. You can see the lining of the small intestine has enterocytes, okay, and these cells will have small projections, not cilia, not flagella. These projections are called villi. Okay, and these villi, one, they will help in the movement of the food, as well as they will absorb the nutrients like glucose, fatty acids, okay, amino acids. These all are absorbed in the enterocyte. Why this villi then? Okay, cell surface, it could be in a normal state, but why there are projections, why there are foldings? So if you see, there is only a small surface area here, but when you take this surface and if you elongate, you will get the larger surface area. So here what happens? The rate of absorption will be more. Okay, as surface area increases, the rate of absorption will be more. Okay, these units, what I said before, simple molecules, they all are absorbed in the villi of the intestinal cells, the lining of the intestinal cells. Okay, and the cells will have some blood vessels. Okay, these cells will have, so this will have some blood vessels, and when the simple molecule are absorbed into the cell, they will again release these molecules to the blood vessels, and from the blood vessels these nutrients are reached to the each and every cell. So in nutrients which are present, they will reach the each and every cell, and here in each and every cell the nutrients which are present, they will utilize and they will form the energy. So energy production will takes place here. Okay, so here it is the absorption process which takes place in the small intestine, and there is a small concept called dental caries. Okay, dental caries is a type of cavity. Okay, ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ಹುಳುಕಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ. So dental caries, it is because of the bacteria which are present in the mouth, and when you eat the sugar, okay, sugar substance like sugar food, the food contains the sugar. When you eat them, so when the sugar is left in our teeth, the bacteria will act with the sugar and it will produce the acid. Okay, this acid it will situate in the surface of the teeth, that is it will surface of the enamel, and in the enamel it will form a dental plaque. Okay, and this dental plaque which is present, it will not allow the saliva to reach the teeth. Okay, and after that what happens, this acid will demineralize the enamel as well as the dentine, and after that the cavity will start to take place, that is caries will start to take place, and this bacteria will infect the pulp which is present. If I tell you with a diagram, like if you consider this as a teeth, so this is enamel part. Okay, it will have a enamel part, and the dentine, the remaining part is called the dentine, and it will have the pulp part. Okay, enamel, dentine and pulp. So in the enamel, what happens when the bacteria act with the sugar, so it will form acid. This acid will tries to demineralize and it will form the caries over here. Okay, and it will form the plaque on the enamel, the dental plaque. That means you may have seen the white deposition in your teeth, right? So that is the dental plaque, and this dental plaque will not allow the saliva to the teeth to reach, because saliva has some antibacterial property, so it will act on the bacteria, so it will not take place due to the dental plaque. So after that what happens, the caries will start, the demineralization of enamel and dentine will take place, and the bacteria will reach the pulp, and in the pulp the infections will take place, and by the infection, inflammation and also pain in the teeth will result from that. So for that sake, whenever you eat the food which contains sugar or carbohydrates, brush your teeth properly, so that the plaque which is present, it will not be deposited on your teeth, and further dental caries will not take place, or else the cavity will not be takes place. Okay, in the next class let us discuss about another life process, that is nutrition. So thank you.